Welcome to Mainland Television Regional News. I'm Graham O'Brien and today's news bulletin: National Organisation acts as President's membership, erosion not going away, and collecting from Musicians Foundation, and much more. The war of the locked door could be over as a national body of grey power has intervened this week since last week's ongoing lock-changing fiasco. At the request of members, it seems, the national body have revoked Neville Mayall's membership so that he can no longer legitimately serve as Grey Power's Nelson's president, leaving Kevin Gardner in as acting president until the Nelson Grey Power AGM. The question now is, does the national body actually have this power? We are hoping to have an answer to this critical question tomorrow. Climate change is an ongoing issue, and those living near the coastal regions of Tasman Bay are finding that out firsthand. New coastal development rules have meant that some landowners who had properties near the coast in areas such as Mapua and Ruby Bay have had their hopes of ever subdividing dashed. However, for those already living at the edge of the problem are having to deal with the reality of the weather and its ongoing effects on their landscape. Packawaw Beach residents have been trying to work with council over the beach erosion issue, but feel that the green option of dealing with the problem using sand is unsatisfactory and won't solve the issue. Push Up is the council's answer to the erosion problem at Packawaw Beach and was completed just before Christmas at the TDC ratepayers' expense. However, in the image now on screen, you can see as a result of one high tide with a gentle breeze of 4.5 knots from off the sea just how vulnerable the loose raw sand really is. Chrissy Small spoke to Laurie Jarrett, who is ratepayer and resident of Packawaw Beach in Golden Bay, about this ongoing issue.
I'm speaking with Laurie Jarrett, who is a resident of Packawaw. Now, Packawaw are undergoing some erosion problems. Laurie, can you give me a brief history on what's been going on?
Yes, Chrissy. In 2012, I think it was May 2012, we had quite a substantial storm off the sea, which eroded the Esplanade Reserve in front of the Packawaw houses by about 4 metres. And council at that time weren't concerned about it and had Environment Court proceedings underway with Sustainable Ventures, which is the Packawaw camp, so did not want to do anything until the result of that hearing was made evident.
Okay.
However, then again in about a year ago, it was just before Easter, we had Cyclone Ita, and that took another 6 metres, which eroded the best part of that 20-metre reserve. So that was getting dangerously close to people's properties. And at that time, we contacted council. Councillors came and we had a discussion on the site, and it all looked pretty good. They could see no reason why existing rock walls could not be repaired as of right, and that consent could be applied for, and council could give consideration to allowing us to rock what was left of the Esplanade Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all good. Everyone was pretty buoyed with that. Everyone thought that was good. So the councillors went away, and then unfortunately council staff had different ideas, and that started so far about a year-long battle just trying to get some protection.
Okay.
And just before Christmas, they have a digger and a dozer in and pushed some sand up against the escarpment, the erosion escarpment. And, well, they seem to think that that's going to help it to rejuvenate, and it's going to be the end of all the problems. They also think that they may do more sand push-ups. The first push-up was at the ratepayers' expense. They say further push-ups will be at the expense of the property owners. Now, the property owners are adamant that they will not put money into something that will wash away. It's loose sand, it will wash away.
Right.
And blow away. It's quite a windy area, it's coastal. The property owners have given an undertaking that they will pay for a rock revetment at absolutely no cost to the council, and that proposal was put to them midway last year,
is that very much similar to what the camp there has in front of its
Yes.
beachfront?
Yes.
Right.
And
Okay.
that's just been completely repaired. That's the Packable camping ground.
That's right. Mm.
That's been completely repaired, and that's a really nice looking job. There was a further three properties north of the camp that did not have an Esplanade reserve. Because they were education board houses, they didn't attract a reserve. So therefore, they were allowed, because it was their property, they were allowed to go ahead and rock it, which they have done. Also a very good job. But the problem is that council do not want rock on the Esplanade. And there is provision within the Act for council to look after this reserve. It's pretty adamant. It's set out in the Act that they must look after it and protect it. But council have got no money. They haven't got money to put into that anyway.
Right.
And it's going nowhere. It really isn't.
So what is the answer, Laurie? Your fellow residents will be asking council to let you choose your method of containment.
Council are of the opinion that the sand will build up there and it will form another dune system. However, after having probably, up to 80 metres of the foreshore since, say, 1940, over 80 metres of the foreshore has eroded right back to the road in places, and the only thing that will stop it is a rock wall. Now, council know that, because at Ruby Bay on Broadsea Avenue, they have done just that. But that was years and years of negotiation, for the want of a better word, between the residents and council.
Right.
And the council's answer to that in the first instance was to put up a clay wall. That washed away the first storm. So then eventually they were forced to put in a rock revetment. Now, originally that rock revetment, and a price was obtained from the contractor, and that rock revetment was going to cost $7,000 a section. By the time they finished the bureaucratic process, that was up to $40,000 a section. And the fear of the residents here is that if we keep getting messed around like we're being messed around, the cost is going to escalate until it's unmanageable by these people.
Right. And not only that, but the loss of land is going to be significant, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. And a lot of the houses were built reasonably close to the beach area. They draw their drinking water and everything from the road side of the section. So therefore their septic tank system is on the beach side. Now most of them have their septic soak systems between the house and the beach. So you can only start to imagine what's going to happen if the erosion gets back into those soak areas. We're going to have fecal matter and coliforms on the beach, which is pretty unacceptable, really.
Okay. So, Laurie, your local councillor must be involved in all this process on your behalf?
Yes, we have two local councillors, Martine Beaulieu.
That's right.
She's made it quite clear that she is in favour of the soft engineering approach. We have another one, Paul Sangster, and he can see, he was involved in the Ruby Bay fiasco, and he can see the importance of putting rocks in and putting them in now.
Well, one would think that council would look at the existing rock face along the beachfront and see that that's actually sustaining the land behind it really well, and that their project of soft sand fill is not working. Surely.
Yes, you would think so, wouldn't you? I've got to be a bit careful here. There seems to be a green ideology within the staff that we are dealing with, and they seem to have blind faith in the fact that it is going to build up.
then if that...
It isn't.
That's right. But if the sand was going to build up, surely it would just build up over top of the boulders that you could, at present time, protect your properties with. But
well, yes, you would think so, wouldn't you? However, they won't entertain that at all.
No.
Now
So where to from here, Laurie?
Well, we have retained a consultant who's very experienced in local body things and erosion and stuff like that, and he is currently preparing a positive proposal for council. We have, as residents, have presented them with a proposal which we thought was very fair, and that proposal was that the local residents will protect council's reserve.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Reserves Act 1977, it quite clearly says the administering body shall be charged with the duty of administering, managing and controlling the reserve under its control and management in accordance with the appropriate provisions of this Act and in terms of its appointment and the means at its disposal, so as to ensure the use, enjoyment, development, maintenance, protection and preservation, as the case may require, of the reserve for the purpose for which it was classified.
Right.
Yeah. Now that reserve was forfeited by the property developer when those sections were developed in the early to mid-60s. And the reserve was taken so as to allow public access along the foreshore unimpeded by the high tides.
Right.
So council have abdicated their duty, really, to look after and protect this reserve.
Right. I think
Now,
I know the reserve. It's on the right-hand side as you're going through Pekawar, heading towards Feels Spit.
Yes.
And it's past the old dairy, isn't it? The camping ground dairy on the right-hand side there. Is that the one?
There is an esplanade strip of 20 metres
Right.
that goes from roughly where that store is, the old camp store.
Yeah.
Yep. And it goes right along for probably about 3/4 of a kilometre,
Right.
or close to a kilometre.
Yeah.
And it is a strip. It's just an esplanade strip.
Okay. Got you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, our proposal to council was that the local residents will completely fund an engineering designed rock wall. They will completely fund it at no cost to the ratepayer whatsoever.
Okay.
And council's contribution would be the consent. That's all they have to do, is supply a consent, and the residents will pay all the costs for building it. We've had prices. We've got a firm quote. It's pretty reasonable, and it can be done straight away.
What kind of cost are you looking at?
You're looking at about $7,000 per section, and each section is about 50 metres.
Right. So it's good.
So
it's good money
pretty
well
good
spent.
price.
Yeah, it is. Well, Laurie. So when will you know?
Well, we hope to meet with council again.
Yeah.
Probably mid to late April. Our consultant will have everything. He's just checking out some legalities. And once we've got those, we will approach council again, and they're expecting us to do that.
Okay.
Well,
look, we must stay in touch on this. This is an interesting dilemma, and I'm sure that there will be other people around Tasman Bay that will be watching this with interest, because Pekawar Beach is not the only exposed bit of land to the water and elements that we have. So, Laurie, Jarrett, I thank you very much for your time, and best of luck.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chrissy. No, I enjoyed talking to you.
The New Zealand Music Foundation is in the region to collect for various good causes under its umbrella, providing support to projects across the country that use music to transform the lives of those in need, and lends emergency assistance in times of hardship to members of the New Zealand music community. Many well-known New Zealand musicians are supporters of this foundation, who has Neil Finn as patron. Newdorf Winery is hosting the Winery Tour concert featuring Dave Dobbin, Don McGlashan, Supergroove and Anika Moa this week on Thursday evening, and the collectors for this charity will be at the event to collect for this worthy cause.
I'm here in this room surrounded by musical instruments because I believe that music is magic. I feel very blessed and honoured that some of the songs I've written over the years have been comforting to people or inspired them to do good things. I'm also aware that in the wider community, music is working its magic every day. The New Zealand Music Foundation has been set up to try and find and support those people who are using music to better people's lives.
A local Motueka resident purchased an 8-tin pack of Coca-Cola from the New World supermarket in Motueka last week, and on arrival home found the carpet in their car soaked with Coke. On inspection, all the cans were faulty and showed signs of being exposed to extreme heat. Coca-Cola were contacted and agreed to replace the cans, but did not offer compensation for the cleanup. There was no comment when the question was asked about the health of Coke when it's been exposed to heat. There have been reports of health issues when some drinks have been exposed to extreme heat. If you come across any of these items, it is suggested you take them back to the store you purchased them from, along with your receipt. A 5th Queensland fruit fly has been found in Auckland, which could indicate a potential tragedy for our fruit growing industry. We asked people in the street their views on our biosecurity border controls.
4 Queensland fruit flies have been found in Auckland recently. This would be catastrophic for our region. What do you think the government should be doing about border controls?
What they were doing to start with when we didn't have the problem.
That's critical. Going through, have we been lapsed? I don't think we've been lapsed as a country because we've just had one case in Auckland, but in the future we could strengthen it. It's so important to our whole industry, isn't it?
There's got to be more manual controls, just physically checking things.
Well, agriculture is a huge part of the economy in New Zealand, so I understand why they are threatened. I'm not as familiar with the insects that you have down here. Fruit flies in Canada are very tiny. You can almost not see them, whereas here they seem much more threatening. So, you have to be careful with that, and I think border security in this day and age is crucial.
Get the army onto it instead of sending them to fight. Get the army to kill them all.
You have to have those controls in place to stop things like that, not just for fruit flies, but for a lot of other different diseases that can be transported through fruit and veggie and what have you. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the Australians, they get anything that comes from our country and they'll ban it straight away. Absolutely. Border control is something that's vitally important, yeah.
I think that their plan of adding what they took out, they had that extra control system would work to add that back in, which means more time control, but that'd be better. Probably adding more security as suitcases were leaving Australia as well would help, maybe, hopefully, because I don't want them here either.
Probably, but I think it's inevitable. It's going to happen anyway, no matter how tight the constraints are. I think it'll still get through. So yeah, it's inevitable.
I don't know. I don't think they will be able to control all that. It's just one of those things.
We've got to tighten it up. If those fruit flies get hold of our industry here, it's going to decimate it. So we need to tighten that up and ensure that these fruit flies aren't coming across the Tasman Sea and decimating our fruit crops here.
The question of foreign drivers on our New Zealand roads is a concern for all involved. People are being killed on our roads in accidents caused by foreign drivers. From 2014 right up until present day, we have seen 11 people, including children, killed on our roads, with all accidents caused by foreign drivers, with many of them crossing the centre line. I spoke to a visitor from the Netherlands, Denise, who has plans to travel around the South Island in her hire van with her partner. She has spent some time here already, and we got her views on driving here. Denise, after being a passenger in a car in New Zealand, now how do you feel about driving in New Zealand, and how does it compare to the roads in Europe?
Well, it's a lot different because we drive on the other side of the road, so I really had to get used to that. The first time someone picked me up from the airport, I was like this in a car and I just watching all the cars carefully because everything is different on the roundabout. Here you have to let people go from the right before you. And in my country, the first person who enters the roundabout gets to go first. So that was a change, and I've bought a bike here, and I had to get used to those roundabouts, and it's getting better now, but I keep hearing about a lot of accidents that happen here with tourists, and I'm kind of starting to think twice about renting a car here, because
yeah, it's a big worry, and then, like you say, there's been a lot of accidents.
Yeah.
How about comparing the roads from New Zealand and Europe? How about the centre line and how close you actually drive to the cars on some of our state highways?
Well, the roads are a lot smaller here in the Netherlands. We have more space on the road, and I've noticed that there aren't a lot of signs. So in my country, it's easy to see what the speed limit is. So if you are on a road where you get to go to 100, there's a green line in the middle, and if you can only go to 80 kilometers an hour, there's no green line, just a white line. And here you have to look for the signs, but there aren't that many, so I think that's why tourists are confused about the speed limit in some cases.
Wow, yeah, it's very interesting. And you've got a license, obviously. Do you drive much in Europe?
Well, I don't drive a lot because I'm a student, so I get free public transport. But I drive in the weekends. And, well, yeah, it's easier in my country, I think.
Thanks very much, and good luck with your decision on hiring a car or not.
Thank you.
We asked some visitors and locals if foreign tourists should sit a driving test before being allowed to drive on our roads.
There have been a lot of tourists causing deadly accidents lately. Do you think they should be made to do a driving test before they can drive a rental car?
No, I don't think so. Because you just have to follow the right side.
Yes, absolutely. I think I'm not quite sure how it would work out, though, realistically. How do you do the testing? How do you kind of approach this realistically?
I think that there are other things that they can do before resorting to taking a test. So I think things like more arrows on the road, more things on the road that make it quite clear to tourists that they've got to stay on the left. Trial that, and if that's not working, then maybe on to testing them. Yeah.
Well, maybe they should just have to sit for maybe a half hour and have a little quick course on it and be given some material about it.
I think that probably is a good idea, especially some people that might be a little elderly and maybe aren't used to the quick reactions that you have, because it is confusing. We're riding bicycles, and when you get to the roundabouts, it can be difficult. I'm trying to figure out which way to go. It's like a little scary. But and then your first reaction that you would have if you had an emergency, your brain is thinking on the other side of the road. So it can be a little testy. Yes, it can be.
Realistically, there are some pretty dangerous drivers out there, and they're stopping in the middle of the road and taking photos, and they're on the wrong side of the road. So, yeah, I think there should be some kind of control over it, and not just giving it out willy-nilly. Speed, I think, is a big factor as well. Not so much going too fast, but going way below the speed limit, and yeah.
But it's a good idea. You need like an international driver's license, and they're always check that when you rent a car. So I think that's good. But no, I don't think we should have a test.
Because it's absolutely different to drive on the left side than from the right side. I know, because I'm French, and I drove in Australia, and the first time I drove, I actually went on the wrong side of a turn. Yeah, that can totally be dangerous, because like sticking to the right is absolutely a reflex that you have, and it's really hard to get rid of it. And I've been driving quite intensely in Australia, and it takes maybe, I don't know, 20 hours of driving before you actually get used to look in the mirror and things like that. So yeah, that definitely should be something, I guess.
And finally, what does the Cuban ambassador do when she has a bit of time out from her busy schedule? Pretty much what everyone else does when they come to our little piece of God zone. I went out with Her Excellency Maria del Carmen Herrera and her husband on a trip around the region this week. After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.